What's up, guys? We got a good one for you guys today. We're going to be talking about mounts and brakes, specifically a product that's been on the market now a couple months, and boy, has it flooded and changed things for the good. If you guys are not familiar, there's been some previous videos that go over some of this stuff. So specifically, here we have from Q the Cherry Bomb and the Plan B pattern mount in 1375 by 24. That would be the external thread. Obviously, this, if you've been watching my videos for some time, has been what I use the most. Whether I use this particular mount or some of the third-party stuff. I will link on the screen as we go through pictures of some different videos we've done on this topic, whether it be about the muzzle devices you see in front of you or about the Plan B family of mounts. They've been great from a Form 1er standpoint, especially because so many tubes, especially our cheapest quality good available tubes, come in 1.50D with a 14375 by 20 thread pattern, standard D-cell thread pattern. And there have been a lot of very good options in mounts, good quality, what we'd call commercial mounts, that have now been available in that thread pattern, allowing us some cross-compatibility without any adapters or anything, or without having to buy more expensive ASR thread pattern tubing for our Form 1 builds. That said, obviously, all of this also comes in that standard 1375 by 24 ASR thread as well. So, my personal favorite has been the Plan B up to this point, up until the last few months. Another secondary good option out there with the same kind of premise between compatibility has also been Griffin's Plan A stuff. So, but this video is not about Griffin. This is about what I like and what I think is honestly the best option for you guys out there, and especially now more than ever that we have some new options. So, why do I like the original Plan B? Well, some of those previous videos will go into that, but just a quick recap. The Cherry Bomb, when it is inside a suppressor, not outside a suppressor, helps with sound incredibly well. Okay, it also has a very short profile, so it sticks into the tube very minimally, allowing us to keep lots of distance between our end of our brake and our first cone. So say this was our first cone, here's our brake. We want distance. Distance is a friend if we can afford it. Okay, so why do we not like Plan B? Well, they've only ever come in 17.4, which is fine if the design is right. Now, Q, I mean, they did some things right, trying to take some weight and stuff out of it. But they've only ever come in this exact mount style, right? They've never gone any further. As far as their brakes, same kind of deal. They've made the first, did well, and that was it. Done. No more innovation at all. So other things, there were no wrench flats on the outside. Makes it very hard to remove things. Their quality control hasn't always been the best, but that is a common problem between all commercial companies. They all sub out and subcontract so much work that a lot of times their threads are out of spec. Now, just to clarify something on that, you can have a mount that threads into a tube perfectly fine, and it can still be out of spec, okay? Anyway, so that is the Plan B pattern. I think it's a great system if we look at the aftermarket and what the aftermarket has been able to evolve it into. We've got a taper, as you can see here, before threads. We have a fairly fine thread. Nothing too crazy there. Some people have worried about that. However, to this day, I've never heard anyone actually have an issue. So that's great. Yeah, so, this works on the lug nut principle like almost every single commercial mount out there does, including the dead air chemo. It just goes about it a different way. Same kind of deal though. A thread is just on the outside, and you're using something else to push this brake forward into a mount to seal up against a taper. There's taper inside here. There's taper inside here. Okay. We have an external thread on our mount. That thread's in our tube. Voila, we're done. Some systems out there do use a secondary locking system. Examples would be Surefire, ASR Bravo. However, they've got some issues too, and it's not necessarily something you actually need. So all mounts are pretty much plagued by some of the same problems. Okay. It gets a little overblown when you get into the forums and stuff and start trading blows. For the most part, all mounts work pretty much the same, with just small details changed here and here. So why do I like the Plan B aftermarket stuff? Well, first off, we've got a lot of options, right? So let's start left to right. For you guys who want something extremely minimal, or you're shooting for 9mm, want an alternative to 3-lug, we've got the Liberty Precision machine. You can see them right there. They've got their little baby bell here, very little going on, very little weight. Sticking on the end of the tube, we got a little bit of a diffuser going on here. Pretty cool. Rearden, okay, this is their mini. Same kind of deal, just no diffuser. This is great, especially for something like 9mm. You guys who like 3-lug and stuff, this gives you an alternative to quickly attach your can to a carbine or whatnot. We've got a full video on this, and I'll make sure I put that up on the screen as well. All right. Also, we'll talk about this one last. Liberty Precision. So far, they've got their own like flash hider and brake deal. Pretty cool. They look awesome, right? We've got a 3-prong one on this, and we're trying to get gas off the center line, get it to mix. And this is a different take on a brake with a small amount of diffusing going on at the base. Just a cool alternative, right? Dino Precision. Here is an asymmetric 2-port. All right. So here's something that outside of a can should theoretically work very, very well. We've tested this quite a bit too. I'll put a link up on the screen. As far as inside of the can, they didn't always perform the best as is. However, if you come from the backside, bore out, and give it a little more internal volume, this is a top contender for getting yourself extremely quiet. Okay, so another great option there from Dino Precision. Then we come to what the main topic of this video is going to be today, and that's going to be Rearden manufacturing. Okay, so here we have a short flash hider. We've got their single port pattern. These also all come in 17.4 raw finish as well. These are 17.4 nitrided. And then we have their Delta, okay, or 2-port brake. And this thing performs fantastically inside of a can as well, as does the single port from them. So these two right here are my personal favorite, my personal go-tos, okay. Now, there's also another now available single port on the market so far, and that comes from FPM Gunworks, Fakwa Precision Machine out of Texas. This is their answer to a single port in the Plan B pattern. It is extremely similar to the Rearden, though they've got a bit larger port for their single port. So one thing that is extremely cool about all of this, right? That relationship from how far your brake sticks into the tube is extremely important. It can get very confusing. We want it to be as minimal as possible, yet still perform the job of wherever that brake or flash hider is. And if you take all of these that we have looked at so far, except for the Rearden double port and the small minis, they all stick into the tube very close to each other. So the Fakwa is just a little bit longer by about, I would say, 50 to 75 thousandths of an inch. But even this 2-port Dino, when you line it up, we're pretty much almost exactly the same, okay? So that means you have a lot of cross compatibility between all of these, and it also makes it very easy because once you know one, you can be close enough that you can basically know them all right? And that's freaking awesome. Again, they are short, so if you're in a scenario where you've built a short can, especially like a K can or an S can, and you're trying to run towards the minimal side of blast chamber, you can achieve good tip spacing to your blast baffle with this kind of stuff. As far as these go, obviously these are extremely short. They're about as minimal as you can get and still have a QD kind of attachment that is going to be more accurate and more solid than something like a 3-lug mount, all right? Not only that, but then you can use these on rifle as well, where 3-lug, you start to run into issues, especially with SBRs, having O-rings and stuff inside 3-lug mounts. Now, as far as the double goes, it's quite a bit longer, all right? So that relationship's going to go out the window. However, Rearden has an answer for that too. And that's not just a Rearden problem, that's an everything problem. Any can you build, especially if you have a commercial can that has a small BC and you're trying to run a longer break, how can you get around this kind of stuff? All right, so now let's dive into the weeds here and talk about what I truly want to really discuss today. And that is Rearden Manufacturing's mounts, okay? So they are a much needed refresh and upgrade to the original Plan B, okay? So they're called the Atlas mounts, okay? We have an extra long, or an XL as it's called, and then you've got your regular Rearden Atlas. So what do we have going on here? Well, we now have more significant volume, back volume into our mount. We've still kept things pretty darn short. You want to compare this to the original Plan B, and they are very, very similar. Not a lot of difference there at all. All right. Now the XL, obviously it's going to be longer as it performs a goal. Very similar to like chemo. Once it's installed, it's going to add a good little bit of length to your overall can. However, if you've got a short can that you're struggling with how much BC volume is, we've got a ton of backbore, okay? We'll look at these dimensions more here in just a few seconds, but this is going to solve some of your problems as well as bring whatever brake you use outside of the can more, okay? It's going to sit more like this, where if we were using a normal mount, this brake would be sitting more like up here like this. So what this XL does is it brings the brake a ½ inch further back out of the tube than your original mount. Now if we compare this to a lot of third-party brakes and stuff, or mounts and stuff, they're not going to have any backbore, yet they're still going to occupy roughly the same amount inside of your tube, taking up a little bit of volume. Now obviously that means that there is less outer length outside the tube, so there's always a give and take for everything, though with the original Atlas we are giving very, very little away here. As far as weights go, let's grab those real quick. Here's the XL. This is 17.4H900. It is coming in at 2.092 ounces. Here is the regular Atlas at 2.154. Pretty cool, right? The way the design is and the way things kind of add up internally means we can still have all this extra length, but keep the weight actually in favor of this. And we'll see that a little bit more when we look at the actual breakdowns here of how the dimensions come apart. Now the original Plan B is a little bit lighter at 1.934. So there is a give and take for everything. We've picked up a little bit of extra volume. We've picked up a little bit better design. We've picked up better thread accuracy, overall machining consistency, for just a touch more weight. Barely anything, right? So what does a double port and a regular Atlas get you? That system there, if you can see that, and I apologize if the lighting kind of shades that out, 4.847. So for reference, a regular ASR mount from Silencer Co., just the mount itself, is extremely heavy. We're at almost 4 ounces, and that's not even including a brake. You add in something like the Rearden double port, which does not obviously work with this. We're at 6.425, okay? So pretty darn heavy. Chemo is actually going to be even more. The only other mounts that are really consistent with the Plan B system is really going to be the Plan A system from Griffin, okay? YHM, they make their own style of system. Here it is with one of their brakes, and it's at 6.32. So obviously also extremely heavy. The Kurtz system, which will be a little bit shorter, will weigh a little bit less. But as far as weight goes, they're all pretty much trying to do the exact same things. But the Rearden Atlas and its compatibility with lots of different brakes really keeps things as light as it can be without going to titanium. Obviously, they could go to titanium if they want. The cost would increase. And that's another thing here, is the Rearden Atlas system, all right, the Plan B system, all of these different brakes we've looked at from all these different manufacturers are very, very affordable, all right? They aren't overly priced like a lot of different things out there. So just the Atlas itself, right, was 2.154. So here is it with a double port, and that is at 4.8.5. So again, lighter than most things. Now, just to give you an idea of what a Tide third party looks like, we're under 4 ounces here, so we're basically an ASR mount all by itself. We pull off the brake, and we're at 1.243. So, in the future, if they wanted to, at additional cost, they could manufacture Atlases in Thai and save even more weight than we already are for a full system. Okay. To give you guys an idea real quick about just kind of some of these other options, we'll go with a single port, we'll go with one of Liberty's, and we'll go with the absolute minimum here. So here is Rearden Mini. On its own, it's 1.55 with, with a regular Atlas. Now we're now all the way down to 3.2, and with an Atlas XL, we're at 3.46. If you're using one of Liberty's brakes, total system 3.584. Brake alone 1.492. Add the Atlas into that, 3.646. Okay. Say you're going to run a Rearden single port, which is what I'm personally running on most of my stuff now, 1.454. We add a single regular Atlas, 3.609. And if you want to run the XL, 3.548. So it's really kind of cool that the only difference you're really truly getting weight-wise is the Atlas XL is actually a touch lighter. But of course, you're adding additional length to your can, and if you don't need that additional length, from a standpoint of you're building a can from scratch, it would just make more sense then to use a longer tube, right? But if you've already got a built can and you need that additional length, or you've got a commercial can that has a very small BC and you're looking to run more BC or more length or run a longer brake, that's what the XL's purpose is, right? Okay, so that pretty much covers weights. Probably the next thing to get out of the way here before we really kind of dive in and look at like dimensions and tip spacing and all that kind of stuff is to talk about threads. Okay, so from the Form 1 standpoint, there's more or less two threads that matter, all right? And that is ASR, Bravo, 1375 by 24, assuming you've got an ASR threaded tube already. Or 14375 by 20, assuming you have a D-cell tube. Now, obviously, there's 1625 tubes, there's 175 tubes. They come in their own thread patterns, or you buy ASR adapters and run ASR adapters. That is an option too. So that gets you right back to the two threads we're talking about here. So as of right this minute, the regular Atlas only comes in 1375 by 24. All right. If you guys don't know this already, Rearden is moving from one state to another state, opening a new shop. So there's a lot of stuff they want to make, but they haven't been able to make. So their capacity has not been there, especially since they have a lot of other contracts to fill. They are a large, or I should say they're not large, but they are a growing company that already has a lot of existing business. So they can only offer so much so fast until they get that bigger shop and more machines and yada, yada, yada. The XL, on the other hand, it comes in 14375 by 24, but like this one here I have in my hand, it also comes in 14375 by 20. I might have just said the wrong thread before that, so just for me to clarify, it comes in ASR Bravo 1375 by 24, and then D-Cell 14375 by 20. All right. So for you guys at home, you buy an SDTA tube, you can buy a Rearden XL in 14375 by 20. Bam, you're good to go. You're set, head of the range, go have some fun. Make sure you got your Form 1. Again, everything you do, that's on you. That's your risk. Make sure you know the laws, all that disclaimer stuff. All right. So in the future, very much so hoping, and I'm pretty sure it's planned, that this will also come in a 14375 by 20 as production grows. All right. Now, for you guys running 175, 1625 tubes, you're either going to have to run an adapter to ASR Bravo 1375 by 24, or hope that in the future, which I do believe will happen, it just kind of depends on what still the market has done and where we're at in the world at that point. But you can obviously see that these might also come in whatever thread tubes that are available. Another product that might be in the works would also be a scaled down version, okay, to maybe some of the smaller thread tube sizes for you guys who are running like 9mm and such. And that would also require some different muzzle devices. But there is lots of plans, all right? So I just want to get that out of the way. Everyone always wants lots of different things. We all want lots of compatibility. Rearden, they're looking to deliver on that in time. So be patient, give them time. Great company, great people. There's no better place you could support, especially for this kind of stuff. And I'm not just saying that because I've become very good friends with them. I truly do believe it. All right, so that's a full disclaimer there. Okay, so now that we've got this out of the way, let's talk about using it for real in your can or solvent trap or whatever it is you have planned to do. I've drawn up some rough sketches here, and we'll, oops, sorry, a little too much there. We'll take a little look here. So I've got the Atlas on the left, the XL on the right. All right. So this is more or less what we've got going on here. I get my hand out of the way. And this is what we've got going on over here, assuming I can get my big fingers and stuff out of the way. So what do you need to know? How far does this regular Atlas thread into your tube? So the T-non on this area here that threads in is about 360 thousandths of an inch. So that is what's going to go down there, okay? However, the backbore, this backboard area, that is 1/4 of an inch, 250 thousandths of an inch. So say you're going to do a 2.5 inch blast chamber. You would, say, okay, I've got 2.5 inches. Well, now I've got 1/4 of an inch of backbore I can include in my blast chamber. So I can subtract 1/4 of an inch from that 2.5 inches. So now I know that if I'm going to make a spacer to put on the end here, let's pretend this was a spacer. I guess I should have had more props available. Here we go. So let's pretend this was a very long spacer. You would make that spacer 2.25 inches because you would then add in this 1/4 of an inch of back bore, giving you a total blast chamber inner volume by length of 2.5 inches. Okay, that is how you would figure that out. From the XL, also threads into the tube the same amount, but it has significantly more back volume, right? So it's 6.25, I should say 625 thousandths of an inch of back bore. Sorry, there's a light. I've got like 4 lights, and yet I still seem to make shadows and stuff, so apologize about that. But we've got lots of back bore here, okay, more than what threads in the tube. So if we subtracted 360 from 625, you would know that that is how much extra volume you are getting added to your tube. So same kind of deal. If you wanted a 2.5 inch blast chamber, you would take 2.5, you'd subtract 625, and whatever that number is, that would be how long you would make the spacer that you would put on the end of your mount to make your 2.5 inch blast chamber. Obviously, putting a shoulder in some of these tubes adds some complexity. So let's say that this had, I don't know, a 2-inch built-in spacer. So let's say if they measured from the end 2 inches in, right? And you were looking for a 2.5 inch back bore. All right, so you would take 2 inches, okay? You should take 250, which if that's your goal, you would then subtract whatever the back bore is, okay? That would then tell you kind of how much length you need to add, and then you would calculate the difference from your shoulder. So it's a little bit kind of weird with the Atlas, okay, to calculate. However, the XL makes it really easy because it literally makes more blast chamber than what you would already have, okay? So you're going to have to do that math. I always suggest do exactly like I've done here. Draw it down on paper and play with it until you're sure you understand what you have going on. The outer diameter here is going to be flush in the tube, all right? So it's 1.5 inches, okay? So it's going to match up just like most mounts out there on the market with a 1.5 diameter tube, all right? The length that you're going to add with the XL is 1 inch, all right? With the regular Atlas, it's a 1/2 inch, okay? So if you have a 5-inch tube, you stick in a normal Atlas, your now overall length is 5.5, all right? You got a 5-inch tube, you install an Atlas XL, you now have a 6-inch overall length, all right? What else do you guys need to know? As far as the overall length of the entire mount, the Atlas XL is 1357, and the regular Atlas is 350. I think that pretty much covers that stuff. Now we just need to talk about brakes and such. So, where to start there? The beauty, again, of if you know all of these brakes and muzzle devices, I'm just going to keep calling them brakes, even though they're not all brakes, is that if you know the measurement of one, you can pretty much within, say, 30 to 50 thousandths of an inch calculate the others without measuring anything, knowing the data we now have here. So, for example, we can take this Rearden double port, all right, and we can thread it into this XL. All right, so let's do that. So into this XL, all right, from the tip here all the way down to that back wall there, all right, that backward volume, that is 1.327 inches, okay? We do the same thing with the regular Atlas, which is right here. It's going to seat a little bit different, all right, in the mount, where the taper is and how much thread there is a little bit different. And that comes out to 1.446, okay? So imagine that there. Try to visualize this back volume. and the difference of where the end of this brake will end up sitting in relationship to back volume. So that will help you at least figure out kind of how much volume you have in your blast chamber. Okay. Now, what probably matters to you guys more, trying to figure out your tip spacing, is how far from the wall here, this wall, to the tip here, does every mount or brake, I should say muzzle device, protrude in from this wall. All right. So the delta from that wall with the X, or the delta, the double port from that wall protrudes into the tube 1.057 inches. So what does that mean? That means that if this is our tube, this is our wall, and we got this in, this tip is from here into the tube 1.057 inches. All right. Now, if we know what it does to the differences between it and the Atlas, we can calculate it. So, and then we can kind of get very close to all our other ones. So with the regular Atlas, we put this double port in, and it is going to move it. All right. And that is the beauty of the two different systems. So here you have this Atlas. Now look how much further into the tube this goes. So I'll tell you right now that with a regular Atlas, the difference is basically half of an inch. So if you know how far an Atlas already sticks in, or an XL already sticks in with whatever brake, you're going to calculate that half-inch difference to the next. Okay, so makes it kind of easy, that correction factor. Okay, cherry bomb. All right, so all of these other brakes are more or less going to stick in the tube very close to the same as the cherry bomb. The cherry bomb's actually probably a touch longer by about 30 to 50 thou than most of them. So if we know what this sticks in, then we can pretty much apply that math to all the others without even owning it. So the cherry bomb itself with the XL, it will, once it's installed, protrude into our tube 0.566. All right, so a little over half of an inch into the tube. So say we wanted to swap this out for a regular Atlas. Well, we can just add more or less half of an inch to that figure and get our Atlas. So I measured it already, and it's 1.060 is what a cherry bomb with a regular Atlas sticks into the tube, including the thread tenon. Okay, so pretty easy to then calculate what, say, a Liberty or any of the others. They're all probably going to do more or less the exact same thing within, 25 to 50 thousandths of an inch, which that's not very much, as long as you guys are out there shooting for at least your 0.5 tip spacing. So say shoot for 0.55 or more, you're going to be good across the board with any of the muzzle devices. Okay, so makes it pretty easy to switch between all the different ones and calculate your builds and stuff from home. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I think that pretty much covers this system. The last thing I think we should probably go over is availability. All right, so let's take a closer look at their website and where you guys can source some of this stuff. So ReardenMFG.com. I've been doing it many times, so it's just going to auto pop up there. But it's ReardenMFG.com, just like that. Click on it here. It's going to take you right to their home website. All right. Now, a lot of you, especially because of the move, are probably going to come here and potentially not find what you are looking for. All right. We can go shop muzzle devices if we want and kind of take a look through things. But this will give you an idea of some of the products we just talked about and what is available. Like I've said, a lot of it is probably going to be out of stock. Now, that just means it's out of stock here because, like any company, if they've got vendors that they work with, they're going to try to fill those vendors' orders first. and Rearden has a lot of vendors and limited capacity right now. I shouldn't really say limited because their capacity is still probably more than a lot of the places you guys all shop from. But until the move, until the things get off the ground a little more, you're going to have to search for stuff. But you guys as Form 1ers should all be probably extremely used to that by now, as it is always difficult and demand is always high. So where can you look for other things? One of the larger alternative places is a place called Hanson Brothers. So if we go to hansonbrothers.com, go ahead and click on their website here. And I would say we'll just go to accessories. And they're going to have stuff for all kinds of different commercial cans and all kinds of different brands. But Rearden is one of those that is fortunate enough to be on their website. Now, obviously, there are many different pages of stuff here, and you're going to have to scroll through it or probably search their website. Now, it looks like there's a section for brands. Not sure if and there's Rearden right there. And voila, there is stuff in stock for Rearden that you can find right there. Now, there are a long list of websites that carry Rearden products, some of which sell their products and some of which use their products. Now let's take a look at that list. Okay, so here is that list. You've got dealer names here on the left, their states, and then their websites in the middle, and then like their social media and stuff like that, what kind of distributor they are, whether they're a wholesaler or just a regular retail distributor. And here you're going to be able to look at some of these different websites and potentially find some of the products you're looking for. So how bad you want it is going to determine on how much you're willing to search each one of these websites until you find it, right? So that's basically that. That is the full list as of this month and this date. And there you have it. I might attach this PDF underneath the master post. In the master post, I link every video under different topics and such. This will probably end up under like the general topic, or maybe the mounts or I should say the muzzle device area possibly. And potentially underneath that video link, I might link this PDF as well for you guys. But yeah, so that pretty much concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoy Rearden's products. I sure freaking do. And we'll see you for the next one.